Hello, Peaceful Profits Nation. Welcome to the Peaceful Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and I'm joined today by Michelle Bishop. Michelle, so glad to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here and so excited as this is going to be the very first podcast that I've ever done.
Oh, and this is a great one to start on and a great topic to be speaking about. So, let me introduce you to our listeners and then we'll jump right in. So, Michelle Bishop is a certified professional life coach, author of Choose You First, and resilience expert who helps women break free from limiting beliefs to live authentically and powerfully. Drawing from her journey through childhood trauma, surviving breast cancer, COVID-19, and the loss of her husband, Michelle teaches women how to transform adversity into strength through her unique silent warrior approach. As a successful businesswoman who built multiple careers from scratch, she combines practice, business acumen with deep emotional intelligence to guide others in choosing themselves first without guilt. This is a message we're going to see over and over as we talk today. And as I've read your book, Choose You First, this is something that speaks powerfully to women everywhere and is so personal to the journey that you've been through. And before we get into your book and all of that good stuff, I would like to just hear a little bit of background. And where I'd like to start is your connection to Peaceful Profits. So, how did you first come across Peaceful Profits?
Well, I had made a determination that there was a calling for me to reach out and touch other people's lives to make a impact. Everybody talks about legacies and, what do you want your legacy to be? Well, I wanted to make sure that I was fulfilling what I would consider a calling to helping others. In that journey, I had originally looked at, of course, now you hear all about artificial intelligence. And I recognize that I myself literally I'm not a writer. I have a story, I have a message, but I wanted to put it out there for the world to be able to read and learn. That being said, after going through the AI journey, I was like, what is this? There was like no human like resilient. It didn't resemble me in any shape or form. And even though I gave the information to this tool, it really did not put out a product that I knew was authentic. And then I got the opportunity to be introduced to Peaceful Profits. And I loved the immediate connection and the purpose within taking and interviewing whether or not it was a right connect for me, for them, and in authoring my book and writing my book and telling my story and all the wonderful things I've learned over the past. So it gave me basically an extension to accomplish what my vision was. And I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's so interesting. I want to learn more about the AI process that you went through because I think that a lot of people are tempted by that at this point. You know, we hear all this about AI and it's so exciting and it can do everything. So, what do you think was missing in that just didn't make it feel like the book you wanted to have?
I know exactly what was missing: the human element of authenticity.
Hmm.
And there's nothing in this world that can create that except one own individual, because we're all individuals on this earth.
Yeah. Okay, that's so interesting. And I think that your book just has so much of you in it. It has so much heart in it. It's very real, it's very authentic. And I can see how without that piece in there, you would just miss the mark so much. You know,
Uh,
it wouldn't connect on that human level.
Well, and really, is that what we want? Is somebody to give us essentially like a Webster dictionary of what the definition is for something
Right.
without any human contact, no authenticity, nothing of heart? I'm like, I don't see that as being the ideal learning environment for us to grow as humans.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So AI didn't work out, not what you were going for. So, backing up a step, what was going on in your world that even led you? You mentioned legacy. What led you to seek our publishing services?
Once again, recognizing my own limitations,
Mm,
uh, being able to express my my work, my vision, my story to others. Uh, I knew I needed not just a publishing arm, but truly a partner in my vision and journey to helping others. And uh, I hate to use the analogy. Sometimes you've got to kiss some frogs to get to the prince, but I was willing to really do the research needed to do that, and it was through a number of not trial and errors, but interviewing to make that
mm,
determination that there was a connect there.
yeah.
And 100%, I had no reservations once I had met the organization within Peaceful Profits and how the follow through was consistently all the way what they promised and more. And when there was a little bit of adjustment that needed, there could be that adjustment so that it put out the best product for the reader to be able to understand and also complete the vision at hand.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. So what were some of your goals in coming here? Or another way to ask that is why was a book just more important to your bigger mission of what you have in mind for your future, for your business, for getting this message out into the world?
I really consider a book, this book, Choose Me First, is basically that coal of the basis for me for the rest of my journey with the world. It literally is that hot stone that will allow me to then take all these pieces of life lessons and expand upon that even greater because I recognize that not everybody has the same life journey. And so there's so many different pieces and parts of the story that I get to expand on, like breast cancer and the survival of that and what that means emotionally, and different things like even when you lose a spouse and what's that like to be, unexpectedly or expectedly, because everybody's grieving is different. And so it allows me to leave a legacy but without having a foundation and that hot stone at the beginning, it really is difficult to me to be able to explore all my life and just a meeting through coaching journeys, that kind of thing. It's got to be more centralized. And this gives a good overview.
Okay. I think that's really a powerful way to put it, and that it can be just the beginning of a journey with you. That this is where people can come in, an entry point into your world and understanding and to bridging that gap between their story and your own that you share on these pages.
And I love to
So,
say your world, but really it's a community. That's what I want. It's not
yeah,
my world. Just like I say,
true.
your best you. It's because everybody has their own best and what they want for themselves. And I really want that.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, I would love for you to walk us through your experience of working with Peaceful Profits. Tell us some of the key moments and just what the process itself was like.
Initially, after I had learned about Peaceful Profits, I had an interview with one of the, I guess, uh, I don't know, like screening, I would say screening to see whether or not the match was a good match or not. And that went well for both of us. And we decided to make the next step. And I went for Peaceful Profits, recognizing I needed all the help I could get. I'm only one person. So I went ahead and wanted to have somebody hold hold my hand through the journey. And she was able to match me up with an incredible ghostwriter. And it was it's like a lifelong friend that I know that I will have forever. And she really got me. And even when we had made some adjustments or something was out of like sync, the recovery process was so easy. Like it was like, oh, this is what's going on, and I'm not really connected here. And such an open, loving relationship. And you use the words peaceful profits. There's nothing peaceful really when you think about what you're doing. You're really in any book, whether or not it's a children's book or a inspirational book or even a directional book, you know, there's a lot of moving parts to it. And
Yeah.
so I feel, which you say, yeah, I didn't realize how many there are. But I am so grateful all the time for peaceful profits, because if there's a landmine or something that we need to take care of, or even if it's just the next step, oh, what is that process? You have to have a process, because if you don't have a process, then you don't move. And so peaceful profits has allowed me to do that. And I'm very grateful.
You bring up an interesting point. I think so often going into a book, so many people want to write a book and they don't realize the part you just said, that there are so many moving pieces. There are so many things to figure out. There are so many adjustments that need to be made along the way. And it is a lot to go from idea to actual completed book. And I love also this connection that you mentioned with, your ghostwriter, that you have this, and it really becomes this collaborative effort where you are providing, it's your book, you're providing all the content, you are doing all the thought and the effort, and the ghostwriter is arranging. That's kind of what I think of as I do ghostwriting, arranging the words on the page, but it's still this collaboration where it goes back and forth to you, and is this what you wanted, and is this going to work? And eventually it comes out to be this wonderful and beautiful book that's better, I feel, than either person could have come up with on their own, because it's just this synergy that happens when you work together.
You use the word synergy. I think that's an excellent word. It is a synergy. And the way that you're communicating continually through that process. And again, uh, there is absolutely no doubt within my mind at 100% that I would never be published or even had finished or started a book without peaceful profits. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, as someone who shared so much so personally, I can see how that would bring up a lot of emotions in the writing process. I'm very curious how that was in the ghost writing process for you. Writing a book that's so vulnerable, how was that sharing with this person and putting that all out there?
Chanel, that is a great question. I I'll tell you, I was very, very raw during some of these processes and didn't actually realize what it would bring up. And, it was draining at some
Yeah.
point. And like you said, the collaboration with my ghostwriter, I mean, honestly, it was like I felt like when I needed a hug or if I was just getting through a moment or anything like that, she was so aligned with me. And that's it takes time. It's, it's a journey, and you have to take it step by step, and to be able to be gifted to know when to push the gas, when to come off the gas. I mean, it's a really unbelievably unique human element that you would not get normally. And I don't think that you would just get that with anyone. And so Peaceful Profits not only has allowed me the processes that are steadfast and true, but also really feeling like part of a community, like I said, and getting the vision out to people so that it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. Wonderful. Now, your book has recently been published. It was published this month. I would love to hear some of the outcomes that you've seen, some of the feedback that you've gotten. Tell us kind of the splash that this book has made so far. And this is just the beginning.
Um, I I will tell you, I'm amazed. In the beginning, and like you said, it's been maybe, a week and a half or something like that. But uh people that would say, like in my town, that know me really didn't know me. And now they know
Mm,
me. And it's so it's so liberating. And I really, really love that even people that don't know me, and the feedback is that their appreciation of the vulnerability, the honesty, you know, the ability to really shine a light of hope even in their situation. It fills my heart. It definitely makes me so more even motivated to get out there and share the messaging so that everyone can be have just a small little pivot of positive change is a beautiful thing.
yeah.
It's been
Yes.
great.
Wonderful. And that is the true, you can all listeners can see that Michelle is leading with her heart because she is speaking of the human connection that she's gotten from this book. I also happen to know that you hit number one in your category on Amazon, right?
I That's what I understand. I'm pretty excited.
Yes. Congratulations. That's huge. That's so exciting to have this new book come out to already start to see this success and this momentum. How does that feel?
Oh my gosh, it's I'm just like so happy. But you know what? I began happy and whole. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I am a widow, but even in that, it was the first time that I recognized being vulnerable to others and being true and authentic within your heart really makes an impact. And so, as much as it means to me, it really means so much more that it's going to others and that we can really make a difference. And that's what I'm talking about in that legacy of
Yeah.
knowing that everybody can make really small movements and be peaceful and make a positive change. Don't have to be a victim. You can be
Yes.
victorious.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm excited for you to continue to share this message, to continue to get the book out. Let's talk a little more about the book itself. So the book is called Choose You First. And let's talk about why this was the book. Why did you write this particular book with this particular message?
Well, today in 2025 is very, very different than when I was born in 1966. And we all go through those times of change. And I have felt that there have been so many dynamics that have been so polarizing. And so it's like almost like taboo to not talk about it. And I was like, no way, not going to do this. I think that that doesn't make the problem go away. It doesn't do anything to solve it by being silent. So let's just put it out there. And I'm doing it courageously and fearlessly in it. And when I say choose me first, it's not choose me. I want people to read it as they are choosing themselves first.
Yes.
And often it gets twisted as that's a selfish move. Oh, you want to choose you first. And it really is about the racket you're telling yourself in your head. Because when the plane goes down, they tell you before you can help others and the oxygen mask drops down, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first to help anybody else. Otherwise, within less than 30 seconds of lack of oxygen, you're going to pass out. So we are doing so many things, and we often, as women, do for everyone else, and then we're last. But what we don't realize is that by choosing yourself first, how many more people you can actually help and do it with actually a breath. And that's why I use
Yeah.
the with actually a breath. And so it really is not a selfish, it's a selfless move to choose you first. So hence
Yes.
the book title.
Love it. Now, you brought up the idea of breath, and that was a message that you shared a lot, not until part two of the book. But talk to us a little bit about that idea of what that means to you, of what that idea of breath and that whole concept of taking a breath actually means.
Okay, I've got to take a breath. Um, well, and I did suffer from COVID in 2020, December, when it was rampant. And, you were seeing in the media just all over the world, death, millions and millions. And it was such a dramatic time. And having been in the ICU for 3 weeks, just trying to get my breath was definitely interesting because it kind of tied into my whole life of living it with anxiety and mask and just being able to breathe through things to get through things. And you think, oh, the simplicity of breath, we take it for granted. And the reality is that it actually has a chemical reaction in one's brain that can be triggered just by taking and breathing. And I remember in that ICU, because at that time no one could come in. So when they did, they were suited up, and so you didn't have your loved ones, and call it an epiphany or medication or whatever. I remember that there was a time that there was a little alcove with a sofa, little love seat that loved ones could sit, but there were no loved ones. And I remember this night, the scene in that area was of a man, and it was all yellowed, and he was laying on the couch and throwing a ball against the wall, and the ball would come directly to him, and it throw the wall and go back. Like it was just seamless. And I kept on hearing the message, it's just time. It's just time. And really, it was something that would coming through and being a survivor of COVID and all of the things, I realized that time is of the essence and
Mm.
breath is essential. And truly, by all of the things that I have gone through in my life, it has been the one constant, and that is breath. And it should not be taken advantage of. And how
Yeah.
you utilize those tools are very important too.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful message, even because of its simplicity. It is the simplest thing. We do it all the time without even thinking of it. And yet, tuning into the breath changes things. It just does. And I love how you touch on that in your book. Now, in your book, you've got so many beautiful stories and teaching moments that kind of have taught you throughout your life to cherish the time, to take the breath, and to choose you first. So, can you just share a few of your life experiences that you feel like really helped you to learn that?
Um, there are a lot. And it's interesting because in every moment you think, oh, you know, this has happened or this has happened, and you're reflective on it. But I think being able to be a survivor of a very deep, traumatic childhood abuse and emotionally and physically, and to know that I am not statistics. I hate statistics. I just think who who then calls the shots on that? And so to be able to have, and being a young child and not have the resources and not have the choice, truly, I say choose me first, but as a child, you don't know any differently. This is your normal. And so it's really wonderful to be now an adult and know that there's so many opportunities and resources as adults that we can help advocate for children. And that I want to make sure that all of these things that are in the closet and in the dark, you know, it's okay. It's a neutral event, really. It's how you are and what you're doing and your actions and being able to see and leverage resources. That is a really big deal for me. And I want people to know. People may not always know readily, well, what is that resource? And, is that, what are they think in again, their own racket of, what's the repercussions of, as opposed to really feeling safe in that decision-making process and know that you're not a number, that you're a person, you're a human, and all of the children that we bring into this world need us all to advocate for them. So I would say that that would be a very first step for me, and very emotional, but in the same sense, I've taken that and I get to have a platform. I know what it's like. I understand being a mother myself. Also, from that perspective, I know from being a parent and having a partner in that situation, uh, to how that emotional impact can be for one. And it just takes just the smallest choice that you make in someone's life, even if it's as simple as a hug.
Yeah.
And I love that wonderment of childhood, how everything is just new to them, and how unfortunately sometimes that new becomes their normal, and how can we change that pattern? And it is an opportunity as an adult to make the choice to change the pattern and choose you first.
Yeah. And you've mentioned on this podcast a couple times this idea of not being a victim. And I think with this idea of statistics, right, of children of abusers often become abusers themselves, right? And that is kind of staying stuck in that victim mentality. Well, this is what happened to me, and so I'm going to play this out, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But this idea of choice, of overcoming that, speak to us a little. I mean, you had a really rough childhood. You've been through a lot of things, and really, even beyond childhood, you have been through a lot of things. And so how do you make that conscious choice not to be a victim and to choose something different?
Well, I will share that my greatest joy is that I always wanted to be a mother. And I love my children, two girls. And I loved our blended family when we did have a blended family. And I still love them. And so we had four girls. And in that, my children have never experienced any form of emotional or physical abuse. So I got the opportunity to break the cycle and
Yeah.
and lead with my heart and love my children. And I do attribute that to others when I was a child that gave me love, which was so essential and I was so needing it. But I also will say that my father was always a very consistent part, even though, in the 60s, the roles were different and he was, often more the breadwinner of the family. But I used his methodology of disciplining my children that I had said, because I think my dad gave me two spankings in my whole life. But I always knew what to expect. He had this 1, 2, 3 method. He was always consistent. And I think that maybe, because when children are younger, they may not understand it, but it's very deliberate and intent. And so I really am grateful that you can make those changes by the influences of others. My grandmother was a wonderful, loving role model for me, even though she didn't live in the same town as we did. But you get that opportunity as an adult to share that with a child so that in that subconscious self, that as they become conscious, they can make that choice to make changes in their life.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, what do you hope that readers will learn? I would ask in two parts. What would you hope they'll learn from this conversation, but also more importantly, from your book, from all of the experiences that you've had and you've shared? What do you hope they'll take from that?
That no matter what life presents itself, there will always be challenges. They're not predictable. There's no book of your life. You are the author of your life. And so, in those challenges, regardless of what they are, you have to take a breath, choose me first, and make a move to stay still or move. And the simplicity of that. And the outcome is absolutely determinate on your own actions and not that of others, because you cannot control that of what others will do, but you can control what you will do. And it can have a beautiful, beautiful outcome, or it cannot. You're empowered to do that.
Yes. Oh, I love that message. I love that the idea of letting us see how much control we have over our own selves, over that piece of it. And that addition that you added there of the breath, right? Allowing us to slow down so we can really figure out what choices we can make and where our power lies.
Well, in many situations, we are so overwhelmed by those choices. I mean, we get so much in our brains all the time, just from every second.
Yeah.
And just to take those moments, and sometimes it might just be a simple breath. Sometimes, like last Friday with me, I needed about 30 minutes of a breath. My plate was a little full.
Yeah.
And that was choosing me first so that I could do more for others and expand my plate. And I do it joyfully and not just, and it's authentic. And I have to tell you, Chanel, thank you so much for letting me be who I am, because it's so important that you care about your listeners, you care about others, you care about me. And I just really, 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 really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. This has been such a fun conversation. I have loved learning a little bit more about what brought you here and kind of the behind the scenes of what brought this beautiful book into the world. So, for everyone listening, Peaceful Profits can help you get your book out into the world too. And you can learn more about our publishing services by going to peacefulprofits.com/podcast to get started. And I know you're all also interested in Michelle's book, Choose You First: One Woman's Journey Through Pain, Resilience, and Hard-Won Healing. So Michelle, tell people where they can find more about your book and get it in their hands so they can read it.
If you go to my website, Bishop Life, BISHOPLIFE.com, then I'll have a direct link that'll take you directly to how to get to my book. And I also have some blog information and some other things that'll be coming up in the future so we can build our community of hope.
Perfect. Okay. That community is so needed in our world, and so many people need this message. So, Michelle, thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being here. Everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.